It's time for questions, comments, and answers. And you may have noticed there's basically nothing behind me. That's because I'm in my new house, in my new room that I'm going to use as a studio. And we'll take a look at that dirty mess that's taken me days to clean up and get organized. And I'm still bringing stuff down. So let's just go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson and welcome. This is my channel about, originally started out about the villages, but now it's kind of expanded into, retirement stuff and also doing things around the house and a lot about the villages, obviously, but all types of stuff that would be of interest and things that I'm learning as you turn 55 and move up towards that retirement age. And one of those things is moving. And that's why you look in the background here and you don't see much back here. It's not my gallery. It's not outside. It just looks like, I think you can see the printer sitting over there. But just a little while ago, I'll flip up a picture here. This place was a mess, but this is what I was going to use to actually record a lot of these videos. So in that time frame, I'm moving all the stuff from my gallery down here, all my photography and video stuff, and trying to figure out what in the world to do with it all. And that probably took a while. I didn't even get started on it for a year and a half because it wasn't even down here. And if you're moving, what I can tell you is, at least in my experience, most of the things you think you'll need, you probably don't need. And the last thing I want to do is have a storage place to go ahead and store things. So I am really getting rid of a lot of stuff, but it is hard to get rid of a lot of my camera gear. And I've gone through, I mean, when my mom passed away, I went through all the old pictures that I'd saved from her. And here's one of me. This will make you crack up a little bit, but yeah, this was me when I was pretty young. And obviously, and all those types of things, and to figure out what you're going to throw out, what you're going to keep. And oh man, I got tons of videotapes and all types of stuff. Anyway, that has taken a while and my eyes are bloodshot from doing that. And that's probably why I haven't put out any videos. But during this time, I got contacted by a woman that wanted to do an interview. And let's go ahead and let's use that for the first comment question, and we'll just jump right into that. Yeah, this was definitely a fun time. It was a fun interview. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do it. I wasn't sure how it fit in, but she seemed like a really nice person. So I went ahead and did it. But R. Crawley wrote, Kimberly from Pretty Over 50 sent me. So I got a few of them like that. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. Really nice woman. She's got a channel. Here's a picture of it. Pretty Over 50. And I have a feeling it has to deal a lot with exactly what the title says. But I will put the link to our episode down below. I encourage you to go over to her channel if it's something that would interest you. And I'll show you a quick clip of the two of us at the beginning when I met her out in front of Snail.
Newer. It's called Sawgrass Grove again. And it's more in the south area of the villages and the newer area. And this morning, I'm meeting with a friend. Of course, I think he's a friend because I've been watching his YouTube videos for the last several weeks. His name is Rusty Nelson, and he has a channel about the villages. So I thought it'd be fun to sit down and chat with him and find out a little bit more about how he ended up here and how he's enjoying his lifestyle here. Look at this guy picked me up on the side of the road. This is Rusty.
Hi.
We're going to go find someplace cool to sit down and chat for a little bit. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yep. And actually where we're going is, she turns it around, we're going to one of the larger rec centers, the newest one, which is everything pretty much is geared towards golf. It's actually named after the person that designed all the golf courses here. So
see why I wanted to meet with him? He's a wealth of information. So we're going to learn a lot. Catch you soon.
And that was Kimberly. A lot of good information on her site. And if you're looking for that kind of thing, just jump over there. And really nice woman to meet in person. And I enjoyed our talk. So I had a good time. I hope we get to cross paths again. And I know she's actually looking down here, so she's really interested. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to the next one. I've answered this question before, and I don't mind answering it again because it's something that's very important. But before I answer it, I have to say two things. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a real estate agent, and I don't represent the villages. So don't rely on me. Do your own research. But Anthony writes, Rusty, if buying a resale, can you also check online to ensure that any work done outside, landscaping, hardscaping is ARC approved? Once you buy the house, it's on you. Pretty much once you buy the house, I would think that it's on you, but here's the thing. When you buy the house, you will do a letter that is a letter of disclosure where the seller of the home has to disclose anything to you that may be of importance. Somebody died in the house. There are 50 barking dogs next door. There is loud noise from concerts 3 feet away from your house, that type of thing. But also stress the point, and you could actually get that in writing, is that if they're selling you the home, have they done anything to the house that has not been approved by ARC to the exterior, interior, or anything of the like? And I'm sure if they haven't, they'd be happy to sign for it. That's it. That's all I'm going to leave with that question. On to the next one. I recently did a video on the boardwalks. We got some really nice boardwalks. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link below on the nature walks, the boardwalks around the villages. But it seems to be that I missed one because a couple of people wrote in, like Villages Insider says, hey, Rusty, you missed a walking path. It's brand new up just north of Lake Meona Rec Center. It's called Black Lake. And you're right. So guess what? Here it is. A few of you asked about the Black Lake hiking trail because I did a video on the nature, actually not just the nature walks, but the boardwalks. And so I decided, since a couple of people asked about this, I didn't consider it a boardwalk, but I guess it's kind of close to it. But it's kind of a cool place. It's fairly new. It opened up November of last year. Some kind of my redheaded friends right here, who really don't seem to be afraid of me at all. But I decided to come down and take a walk along the path and see exactly what it's like. I believe in the brochure or whatever on the internet, it says that it's a total of 1.7. Now, I don't know where that encompasses. Maybe somebody can put down in the comments exactly what that means, 1.7. But I'm going to take a little bit of a walk down here. And I believe they said that it costs $840,000. So go get your money's worth. So far, it's been a really nice little walk, and I think I'm probably about halfway through, but on this side of the pathway, unfortunately, is Buena Vista Boulevard, and on that side is the lake, kind of swamp with a lot of lily pads, and I see some flowers coming up. You hear nature going on. But there's also, what makes it a little different is this material that's right here. And it's kind of like a, go ahead. Yep.
It's a tartan surface.
It's a what?
Tartan surface.
Tartan?
Tartan.
Is that like rubber, or is it?
It's what they use on high school tracks. And
oh, okay.
Tracks.
All right. Okay, thanks. There you go. Let's see. Just asking, you shall receive. The information I was about to say, I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it feels kind of, when you're walking on it, it's kind of cushiony, but like the man says, they use it on tracks, like, you know, the running tracks and stuff like that. There you go. That's it. It's, from what I can gather, it's about 1.5 to 1.7. I've seen both round trip, and it is kind of like a soft, spongy surface. As with the other boardwalks, it's a very narrow path, so there's supposedly no dogs allowed on there, and you're not supposed to stray from the path. On to the next one. I got a question from Ilsa, I believe it is. Do you still use empty nest when you are away? Well, some time ago, I did a video on things to think about when you're leaving your home. Certain things you may want to think about doing, like turning off your water or surge protectors or that type of thing. So I'll put that link down below and you may want to take a look at that. My experience with empty nests so far is they've been really good. The nice thing about them is if for some reason you have a delivery, they'll come let the person in for the delivery. Also, they've brought packages in that I had delivered if for some reason my neighbors couldn't get to them, that type of thing. And you basically just have to leave your home and then they come do all the curtains, turn water on, off, that type of thing. And then when you come back, you call them a day or two ahead of time and you let them know. Their biggest beef is people forget to tell them that they've come back into town and they come knocking and come into their house usually early in the morning and you're not there because they come once a week and check on your house or around once a week, something like that. Anyway, hope that helps. If you have any of those questions, I'm sure they'll be answered if you take a look at that video. On to the next one. Angela wrote, "How was the avocado?" Now, if you didn't watch the Strawberry Festival, you're probably not going to, the Strawberry Festival video, you're probably not going to understand what she's talking about. So I'll put the link down below. But here's your answer in video. If some of you guys remember, I went to the Strawberry Festival. If you haven't watched that, you can watch that video. I'll put the link down below. But while I was at the Strawberry Festival eating strawberries, I all of a sudden saw this giant avocado. Now, I've never had anything like this. The guy says it's basically the same as other avocados. And I thought I was making a salad. I forgot all about it. It feels just like maybe it should be ripe, but we're going to find out together. I had to get out my big knife just to cut this sucker. And let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Got that sucker right. Pretty big avocado. But I'm gonna take a slice of this. I love avocado. Really good for you. Good. Definitely good. So for those of you I got a few questions about asking about the avocado, it tastes really good. And I think I'm going to enjoy this today on my salad and probably have it with dinner and probably be enough to have it with everything tomorrow too. There you go. And you guys are right. It does taste a little more like buttery, so to speak. Well, I don't have any transitions, so we're going to jump straight from avocados to golf carts. Captain Crunch writes, and thanks for watching, Captain Crunch. I know you watch a bunch of stuff. Is an electric golf cart feasible? Do they have charging stations? I actually went over to the villages and talked to them over there, and there are not charging stations around for the golf carts. And they said that you can get around 60 to 80 miles or so on a charge with the new lithium batteries. So I would definitely say the electric golf carts are feasible. For myself, as heavy as my foot is, I think I'll probably stick with the gas golf cart, and I probably would be really good with charging things. But I'm sure they're feasible. I know people that have them that are happy as heck with them. And, you got to kind of do your own research on that. And there's a lot of brands that you can buy. In fact, Atomic Golf Cart makes one. They look like little cars driving around, kind of cool looking. On to the next one really quick. We're going to get through a bunch of them this time. Angela writes, when is the next expo? I recently did a video on the Rec Center's Spring Outdoor Expo, and that was held over at Everglades Rec Center. It was kind of cool because it had a bunch of different things in it. I'll put the link down below. You can watch that. Definitely worth going to, but unfortunately, Angela, it's only once a year. On to the next one. Here's one I kind of wondered about myself from time to time, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to answer this. Cynthia writes, I don't care for the fact that you have to pick up your mail rather than have it delivered to your home? Well, most of us here live outside of our home, so we go by that post office about 150 times a day, really. Okay, I'd like to know if USPS delivers mail to the postal stations or if TV has employees that pick it up and distribute it to various postal pickup stations. What is the actual procedure? Well, I kind of wondered that myself. So I ventured over to my local postal station that I actually literally probably pass 5 times a day. And to tell you the truth, I kind of look forward to taking the golf cart and riding over there, talking with people at the postal station or jumping over to the pool and say hello or hello to neighbors. Excuse me. When I went over there and asked them, I was kind of surprised at the answer. Knocked on the back door and guy says, "Come on in." And I asked him, I said, where does the mail come from? Does it come from all different areas and then it's brought in? And he explained the whole thing to me. He said, everything that goes to the villages comes into Lady Lake, the postal station up there. Then they actually have contractors with the post office that work for the post office, is the way I understand it. They work for the post office and then they come down and they deliver them to the individual postal stations. And like he said to me, he said, well, it's kind of like we're postal employees, except the fact is we don't get any of the benefits. So they're kind of contracted out. They work for them, but they don't work for them. Anyway, that's how it happens. All comes down from Lady Lake. Individual people take them and put them in the post office boxes. And I know sometimes when my stuff's too big to fit in the larger boxes down below, they've actually come out and delivered them right to my house. So I got zero complaints about the postal stations here and how it works. In fact, I kind of like it that way. On to the next one. I almost forgot what we're doing. Hey, has anybody noticed? I want to know right now, has anybody noticed that I actually got a haircut halfway through this? Next question. This is kind of funny timing for this question because Joseph writes, "Hello, Rusty. How are you? As usual, your videos are very informative. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate everybody subscribing. I love your house, especially your view, and I'm interested in a pond view house, but I'm afraid the pond will be overflowing and flooding my property or even the house. Are there any systems there to prevent this from happening or lessening the damage? Thank you so much and enjoy your time in the villages." Well, take a look at this video. This is actually in the back of my house. And if you take a look at it right now, it is really dry back there and the pond is really low. So let's talk about this and I'll tell you what I know so far. There's a lot here, and I was actually going to do a whole program on this, but we're going to put that off till a little bit later. I'm going to kind of recap on a lot of things that I know. When I first moved into my house, the property itself hadn't been updated, the flood zone by FEMA. So I had to get, for my mortgage, I had to get flood insurance. I was assured by the villages that they do not build in a flood zone, so to speak, and that eventually FEMA would reevaluate that. And that all came true. In fact, I just got that a little while ago saying I'm no longer in a flood zone. I do not have to have my home insured for flooding. So that's one thing right there. Now, the other thing too is it depends, like everything else in the villages, where you buy. All the way, if you go all the way up in the north there, when they first started building, they didn't have the same knowledge that they have now that they're building down south. And so I'm just going to kind of reference a lot of the things that go on down the south. First of all, if you have ever been here during a large rainstorm, there's a lot of water coming down, you're going to see the sprinklers on in the golf course. And what they're doing is, quote, dumping water, and they're taking the water and they're pulling it out of the ponds and lakes and everything like that. And they're dumping it onto the golf courses. Why? Because they're going to pull that water away from the homes and the developments and flood the golf courses first. Now, I'm generalizing this. It's a lot different in other areas. And if you want to add your 2 cents in, go ahead. But I am just kind of massaging the basics of it. The other thing to consider is the way the neighborhoods are designed down here. Oops, I just banged the mic. The way the neighborhoods are designed down here, they're designed to flood the streets and low-lying areas first. So in other words, you're not going to have an intersection and a house sitting down here. It's just not going to happen. The intersection is going to be down here, and that area will flood first. So you're going to start flooding out the golf courses, the parking lots, the streets, that type of thing before they flood the house. If it starts to go beyond that, it's going to go into people's yards. And the homes generally sit just generally, and I'm not a real estate agent, a lawyer, or a designer, just remember that. They sit a little bit higher. So you're going to flood, once again, the streets and the surrounding areas. If it starts getting up above that, there's nothing you can do. The other thing to think about also, these ponds, lakes, whatever you want to call them, reservoirs, collection ditches, whatever, they're generally controlled a lot more efficiently down south than they are up north. So a lot of them here have pumps where they can pump from pond to pond and move water around. And they also have a system where it's kind of like if you had 2 glasses full of water and there was a tube going in between the 2 glasses, right? If you filled this glass over here, then the water is going to balance out over here. And that's generally what they do, is they can control that water, balancing it back and forth just through gravity and along with pumps. And that really simplifies it. But that, if you're like in that 100-year flood zone, I don't care whether you live in the Rockies someplace, you probably have a chance of getting flooded. So kind of generally, that's the whole idea behind the water system, especially in the new areas. All right, just a couple more, and they're going to be quickies, and then we're out of here. So Joe writes, "Hey, Rusty, I can't believe I'm on my 3rd straight day of binge watching your videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And because it makes me feel good that I put the time into it, and it's kind of helping people out, especially if you're coming down to buy a house. You want to start from that very beginning because you're going to learn stuff along with it at the same time. And I heard someplace that there are fees and added costs to sell and move out of the villages. Is this true? And can you expand on the details if so? I got to keep saying this, guys. I'm so sorry, but I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't work for the villages. But my answer is no. It is literally when you move here, Joe, it is just like, think about if you moved into any part of suburbia in the United States, right? It's the same way. You own the land, you own your house. The only thing that's really big, that's different as far as that type of thing is that everybody in the neighborhood supposedly agrees we're going to keep our houses up to this level. We're going to do this to our lawn. We're going to paint our homes within these colors. If not, we're going to get it approved. In general, people don't park a ton of cars in their driveways because everybody kind of knows that it devalues the neighborhood when you have cars parked. I mean, I was a real estate agent a long time ago in California. And if I was in a neighborhood where there are a lot of cars parked on the street and in the driveways and stuff, it generally would devalue the homes because it's all about the presentation. So that's what it is. Everybody's agreed on that, supposedly. There are always the few that decide they're not going to play in the little reindeer games. I don't know why they move here then. But that's basically the way it is. So to sell your home, there's 2 ways. Well, there's 3 ways. You could sell it yourself. You could sell it through the MLS, the multiple listing system, or you could sell it through the VLS, which is a separate system designed and run by the villages. It's just kind of like the MLS. they don't play together. So you can't. So if you're going to sell your home, buy your home, you kind of want to look at both of those. And that's it. The fees and everything, as far as I know, for most of the area, there's always some little plots that are different. This place is huge. That's generally the way it works. So just consider that. Like I said, I'm not an agent or anything. There may be cases where there are extra fees, but there's not like a get out of the neighborhood fee if you're going to sell your house, that type of thing. There is one thing that I do remember is that if you buy a home, you sign part of a contract that says you're not going to sell it for a year, I believe it is. Don't quote me on this, for a year. And basically that is to stop people from coming in when all the flurry of homes were selling, buying a home and selling it in a year for a profit and getting out. So that's it. Hope that helps out a lot. Investigate it for yourself. And if anybody has anything else to add, please put it down in the comments. Really appreciate it. Going on to the last ones. With that question in mind and talking about neighborhoods, Lori writes, so you are or aren't allowed to have a fenced-in yard. The way it works is there are certain properties, just like mine that I just showed you on the sides. I have a probably about 5.5 foot fence, a privacy fence, you can call it or whatever. And there's a small kind of like metal wrought iron kind of fence in the back. That's each one of our homes, the villas. I live in Peyton Villas. That is the way the homes are designed. You can't just go buy a house like the homes that you saw across the street and throw up a fence. It's just, you just can't do it. So I guess my answer is, if your house has a fence there, you're good to go if it's that type of home. If it's an open space, you can't put a fence in there. Now, can you put bushes and stuff like that? Yes, but you can't just put up a fence. And so if you have to have a fence, my biggest suggestion is to move up north by one of the equestrian lots, probably 5 acres, 5 million, whatever, and you can put up whatever kind of horse fence you want. That's all I know. But there may be some small areas that you can put a fence up. But for me, my general knowledge is, and the general answer is, no, you can't just put a fence up. Whew, okay, we're almost at the end. And then somebody asked me kind of like a YouTube spy question. Here we go. 2 more questions. Sherry Roberts, is there a neighborhood that is more singles oriented? No, because if there was, that's probably where I'd live. But yeah, I don't know of anything that is segregated in the villages, and that's for being single, race, religion, or anything like that. I have never heard of anything like that. And that's the beautiful thing about the villages. And so that's it. That's the best answer I have to that question. But there are plenty of singles clubs where you can meet people, and literally like crowded enough where a lot of times you can't even get into the functions unless you're signed up and paid already. So Dan, let's do this last YouTube question and then we're out of here. As many of you know, in a prior life, I used to fly for the Air Force, and one of the aircraft I used to fly was the U-2, which is a reconnaissance, or a lot of people say it's a spy plane or whatever. And I'll throw a picture up of me just before I was going on a mission. But Bob writes, hey, Rusty, seeing you have some experience with high altitude spooking, that's kind of what he's talking about. What is your take on the Chinese balloon thing? Now, I'm going to tell you a story here, and you can kind of hang around for it or not. But when I first started in the flying with the Air Force, I'll never forget getting a briefing where we watched, and they were talking about Baghdad, and behind the reporter is these Hind helicopters, which is a Russian helicopter flying out of Iraq, right? And we got briefed in the morning that, hey, you're probably going to see these pictures of these hind helicopters. This is the story that's being told. And the story was that they were defecting out of the country. What was really happening was we had actually stolen some hind helicopters and we were flying them in and out of country. So with that in mind and talking about the balloon thing, I don't think we're ever, until after we're long gone and dead, going to get the real story behind the balloon thing. Because I think if you notice, this is what the towards the middle of March, St. Patty's Day, we haven't heard a peep about balloons, have we? And all that stuff flying all over the place. So somebody is either quieting it up or somebody's got some egg on their face and it's being squashed, or we just don't have a need to know what that thing was. Anyway, that's my take on it. I thank you so much for joining in with me if you hung around this long. I got some really cool ones coming up. I can't wait to get this kind of so the sound sounds a little bit better in here, and maybe we'll get some green screen stuff going or backdrops or anything else. And I get my big printer down here. More trips, and I'm sure you've all done it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and joining me. Please feel free to put your comments down below. I do read all of them. If they are for me personally, you can mark them that way and they won't go any further. But once again, thanks for subscribing. And don't forget to push that like button. It really helps out. And I will either see you down here in the villages or I will see you back on YouTube. Have an absolutely wonderful day.